Okay, let's talk about one of the most, let's face it, avoided books in the entire biblical library, Leviticus. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of misunderstanding and see if we can find something incredible. What if this book, so often seen as a code of fear, is actually a map to mutual delight? Let's jump in. For so many of us, the second you hear the word Leviticus, you kind of get this feeling of dread. It just seems so dense, so difficult, and if we're being honest, kind of scary. It's the book where a lot of read through the Bible in a year plans go to die. No, really, think about it for a second. When I say Leviticus, what's the first image that pops in your head? My guess is, for a lot of you, it's probably not a warm and fuzzy one. Maybe you're picturing something like this: a stern judge, a dusty, dry rulebook, and a God who seems distant, maybe even angry. This whole view, which is super common, it turns the book into this oppressive weight. It makes faith feel like you're just constantly trying not to mess up, always afraid of being rejected. And wow, is that exhausting? But here's the big question. What if that entire picture, that whole framework of fear and duty, is a complete misunderstanding of what's at the heart of this book? What if we've been reading the map upside down? And that brings us to the core idea we're going to explore, the grammar of grace. See, Leviticus isn't a story about people desperately trying to win over a reluctant God. It's actually the story of a God who makes the first move, who graciously invites his people into a real, joyful relationship. Just look at this shift in perspective. It changes everything. We're moving from a code based on our fear to a map that leads to delight. Instead of trying to calm down some angry deity, this reveals a father who is throwing a party and inviting us to come. So the whole motivation flips from grim obligation to a joyful response to a love that was already there from the start. So how does God do this? Well, the key is hidden in the structure of the offerings in Leviticus. You have to stop thinking of them as a random list of rules and start seeing them as a grace-designed stairway of worship, a path created by God to lead us right into his presence. All right, so let's walk up this stairway. And this is so important. This isn't a ladder we have to struggle to climb on our own. No, each and every step is a gift, a provision from God, designed to guide us from where we are in all our mess, right into communion with him. So this stairway has 4 main steps, and they each have a really specific purpose. You've got restitution, then purification, then communion, and finally, it all culminates in total worship. You see the flow here? It's a journey, a logical progression, not just a random checklist. The very first step is ʻAāšām, or restitution. And I love this, because it's all about making things right with other people before you try to make things right with God. It's this beautiful, practical call to relational honesty, to actually repair the damage we've caused. It shows that grace always begins with telling the truth. Now, step 2, ḥaṭṭāʻt, or purification, is where a lot of us get tripped up. This is not about us trying to scrub away our sin to make God less mad. Think of it this way. God has already built a beautiful house for us to hang out in. This offering is just his way of helping us keep it clean so the relationship can flourish. He provides the house and the cleaning supplies. And once things are made right and the space is clean, what's next? A party. That's the third step, Zébaḥ Šelamim, or communion. And this is a total game changer. This isn't some quiet, somber ritual. It's a joyful banquet, a shared meal with God, celebrating a peace and a relationship that he already established by his grace. And that brings us to the absolute top of the stairs, the ʻOláh, or total worship. This was the offering that was completely consumed on the altar. It's a beautiful picture of a total, voluntary, all-in response of devotion that rises up to a God who receives it with absolute joy. It's the natural overflow of a restored relationship, not the price of admission. So when you put it all together, what's the point of this whole system? Is it just about managing sin? No, not at all. The true goal is something way more beautiful, way more profound. It's all about mutual delight. You see, we make this huge mistake all the time. We confuse the means with the end. The restitution and the purification, that's the prep work. It's essential, but it isn't the goal. The goal is the celebration, the communion, and the worship. Thinking the whole point is just sin management is like believing the purpose of an amazing dinner party is just washing the dishes, and you completely miss the feast itself. And this idea is the absolute key. This line from the New Testament perfectly captures the heart of what Leviticus has been saying all along. God isn't looking for terrified subjects who follow rules because they're afraid. He is actively seeking. He is looking for people who will worship him with joy, like beloved kids responding to a loving dad. So that famous phrase, a pleasing aroma to the Lord, gets a complete makeover. It's not the sigh of relief from an angry God who's finally been appeased. No way. And it's not the smell of an obligation carried out by a scared servant. It is the genuine pleasure of a loving father, just delighting in the sweet scent of a restored, enjoyed relationship with his child. But seeing Leviticus this way doesn't just change how we look at the past. It actually points us forward, and it creates this deep longing for an even greater kind of fullness.
Because as beautiful and as gracious as this whole system was, it was still just a step on the journey, not the final destination. The fact that it had to be repeated, that it was all external, it was always pointing toward the need for something more permanent, something that could actually change the human heart from the inside out. So there we have it. We've made the journey. We've hopefully transformed our view of Leviticus from this terrifying book of rules into an inviting map of delight. A map that reveals a God who doesn't want our fearful obedience, but our joyful hearts. And that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If a book so widely misunderstood as harsh and legalistic is actually pulsing with this radical story of grace and delight, well, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other profound truths are just sitting there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to take another look with fresh eyes?